Please. I can't get into my system. The whole world is listening. And joining us all the way from Mexico.
I was gonna say, was it like 3 AM or something?
Yes. So I forced it to be a shared, right? So it's just like a public setup right now. So we just have to manually get
You
it.
did a lot of that.
I'm gonna go to Prime Gov.
My children.
Carolyn, sorry, what's the Prime Gov website?
Oh, if you go here,
It's not there, because I wiped it out.
oh, you wiped it out.
Not I didn't wipe it up, but I changed it. I'll get it back here.
Means I won't be able to access anything.
But I knew her for 22 years. Do you know anybody who's 103?
Yeah.
It's too much for my little brain. He said what? I guess it's better than you things. You know, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Beat that.
Okay, we're good to go. Good to go. All right, welcome everybody to the council meeting for February 27th, 2024. As we have quorum, I will call the meeting to order. The time is 7:05. As usual, I'd like to start the meeting off in a positive way by acknowledging that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business under traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. As tomorrow is Pink Shirt Day, I have a statement I would like to read. Hence, we're all wearing our pink shirts. In recognition of Pink Shirt Day tomorrow, council and city staff are proudly wearing pink tonight to honor diversity, kindness, and the power in all of us to make a positive difference. Our shirts say, "Be bold, choose kindness." This is the Maple Ridge we live in. Pink Shirt Day is held annually across Canada and the world to raise awareness about bullying and encourage everyone to stand up against hate and discrimination. It is a day we come together as a community to celebrate diversity, belonging, and empowerment. The theme of this year's Pink Shirt Day is Lift Each Other Up, a simple statement with a powerful message that encourages everyone to work together and treat others with dignity and respect. Pink Shirt Day was started in 2007 by two Canadian teenagers who decided to stand up against bullying after one of their classmates was bullied for wearing a pink shirt to school. Sadly, one too many kids in Canadian schools are affected by bullying. Let's change that. We encourage you to spread positive messages of inspiration and share words of kindness this Pink Shirt Day, which is tomorrow, using the social media hashtags, hashtag Pink Shirt Day, hashtag Lift Each Other Up, and hashtag Erase Bullying. To learn more about Pink Shirt Day and participate, visit www.pinkshirtday.ca. Thank you, and we will move on. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve this agenda, please?
Can I do
Moved
my
by-
introduction?
Sorry, just hold that thought. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a council meeting is to enact powers given to council using bylaws or resolutions and is the venue for debate of issues before voting on a bylaw or resolution. For voting purposes, council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, and yellow for point of order. For members of the public who would like to speak, their opportunity will be to do so later in the meeting during our public question period. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go back to motion to move the agenda, moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments, questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. And now we will move to the adoption of the minutes for special council to close January 16th, special council to close from January 23rd, regular council from January 30th, special council to close from February 1st, special council for February 6th, special council to close from February 6th, special council from February 13th, special council to close from February 20th, and that's all. Can I get a motion to move those items, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. These are items listed on the consent agenda to be considered for approval in one motion unless a member of council wishes to discuss an item and requests that it be excluded. Each item removed from the consent agenda will be debated and voted on separately by council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a consent agenda in front of us. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions on any of these items? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. Next item. Oh, so that is.
The next item on the agenda is item 9.1 under bylaws. It's application 2018-448-RZ.01 for property located at 12061 Lady Street and is a heritage designation and revitalization and tax exemption agreement under amending bylaw number 7981-2023. And it's before council this evening for adoption.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Duick. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to the next item.
The next item is 9.2, application 2023-111-RZ, which is the zoning bylaw housekeeping amendments bylaw number 7928-
Wait. Yeah, we're
Oh.
on 9.2, Code of Conduct.
Sorry, my agenda's incorrect, sorry. My apologies. Code of Conduct bylaw number 7976-2023. Sorry, these are to be considered individually. So the first one is the Maple Ridge Code of Conduct bylaw number 7976-2023, which will bring a new code of conduct into place for council members. That's before council for adoption.
So there's 4 items. We're going to do them separately, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for the first recommendation, that Maple Ridge Code of Conduct bylaw number 7976-2023 be adopted. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions on this? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As there continues to be those punitive measures that I cannot agree with, I will be voting against this. Thank you.
You. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the first recommendation and we have any opposed? We have Councillor Youssef, so it's 6-1. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next one, item 2, Maple Ridge Council Code of Conduct repeal bylaw 7986-2024 be adopted. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments, questions on this item? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're repealing the old or existing Code of Conduct bylaw. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yet we've just adopted another one. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I will be voting in favor of the repeal, hopefully for both.
Okay. Any further, Councillor Duick?
So just to be clear, the 7986-2024 is not the one we're repealing, is it?
It is the repeal bylaw.
Okay,
So it's adoption of the bylaw to repeal the original
okay.
code of
Just
conduct.
want to be clear. We're not, okay, it's because it's 2024 is the one that, the current one.
Because there wasn't a mechanism in there before, so this is putting that mechanism in place. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on to the third recommendation, that elected official oath of office bylaw number 7975-2023 be adopted. Can I get a motion for this item? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. And moving on to the fourth and final, that Maple Ridge Council remuneration bylaw number 730-2017, amendment bylaw number 7974-2023 be adopted. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Looks like unanimous. Thank you very much. And now we're going to move on to the next item. Madam Clerk. Oh, is there? Yeah.
Okay, the next item is application 2021-389-RZ for properties located at 11619, 11631, and 11639 Adair Street to rezone from RS1 to RT2 to permit the future construction of 3 triplexes on 3 separate lots, and it's before council for consideration of third reading.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Seeing no opposed, motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Oh my goodness. Next item is application 2021-280-RZ for property located at 22306 122 Avenue to rezone from RS1 to RT2 for the future construction of a fourplex before council for third reading consideration.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for this item? Is that a point of order? What? We're on 9.4, right? Sorry? My script is wrong? Oh, your script is wrong.
My apologies. No. This is for application 2019-051-RZ for property located at 11405 236th Street to rezone from RS3 to RM1. And that bylaw is before council for third reading, in addition to an official community plan amending bylaw, also for consideration of third reading.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Open it up for questions. Being no comments, no questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please.
Next item, 9.5 for application 2021-280-RZ. Property located at 22306 122 Avenue to rezone from RS1 to RT2 for the construction of a fourplex before council for third reading.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion, any opposed? I'm not sure. Councillor Youssef, you're shaking your head. I'm not sure what that is.
I was a little late to raise my hand, so I'm saying no, I'm not opposed.
You're not opposed. Okay, so it's unanimously passed. Sorry about that. You confused me there. Okay, motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item is 9.6, application 2023-350-RZ for properties located at 24070 128 Avenue and 24195 Fern Crescent to rezone from RS3 to CD5-23 to facilitate the development of 47 townhouse dwelling units in front of council for consideration of third reading.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments or questions? Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. So I'll just start. I just wanted to thank everybody who's been part of the conversation around this project. Hasn't always been an easy conversation, but it is helpful to hear what people are thinking about. And it's sort of become clear that there's sort of two main views, two ways of looking at this. And one view says we desperately need housing, and this is housing, and we should just get on with building it. And I've really reflected on that because I hear that perspective from people whose opinions I really value. And I think the other main view is that we do need housing, but it needs to be housing that makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then we're not really solving our problems. So when I look at the OCP and I look at the Silver Valley Area Plan, what it seems like to me is that we've identified areas in our community that can best tolerate density along Dewdney Trunk Road, the town center, Albion. And we're going to allow higher density there because we really do need housing. And the trade-off, of course, is that we're going to lose a lot of nature, but we need housing. So we need to make that trade-off. And we have rules around protecting the environment. Well, when we cut down an 80-year-old tree, that tree's not getting replaced in my lifetime. And we can plant other trees and we can charge money to capture some of the value of that tree, but we can't actually replace that tree. But we do accept that trade-off because we really do need housing. So to balance that out, to my way of thinking, we have to have areas of the community where the density is kept low to allow spaces for 80-year-old trees and for wildlife. And so I see this particular location as being one of those areas. And if we're not gonna hold to lower density in areas like this, where sort of at the edge of the community and interfacing with a large natural area, then we're not going to hold it anywhere. So I've looked at the proposal. You know, I think it's identified as a parcel for development. I think the townhouses make sense. I support that aspect. I think that's some of the flexibility that we've talked about a bit, that, you know, things do change over time. And so here's a different housing type and a more affordable housing type. And I don't take issue with that. I've tried to communicate clearly that the issue here for me is about the density and asking for an amendment to the OCP. Putting bridges and schools aside, nothing is going to change the fact that this property is right at the entrance to Golden Ears Park. And it is a park that is accessed by millions of people along a twisting, narrow, winding road. And that is the reality of the situation. So to me, it is not the place for density, and I will not be supporting this as it is in front of me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carreras, followed by Councillor Duick.
Thank you. Just to echo what Councillor Schiller said, I want to thank everybody who participated in the process. We had a lot of correspondence on both sides on this, and lots of people reached out to me before public hearing as well as many conversations on social media. And I've always said that, you know, we need the community to participate, to be able to make good decisions. And I am very grateful for everybody who showed up last week and talked in a lot of people multiple times about what they thought about the proposal. And I'm grateful for that. You know, going into public hearing, I did say I was going to listen to both sides, and I did. I am, I zoomed in from vacation, and we're a few hours ahead. So I think it was 1:30 in the morning by the time I was able to close public hearing. But, you know, I do agree with a lot of what was said by the pro folks, especially around the single family home isn't as common nowadays as a townhouse. And I think as we go back to the December meeting, I was very clear that I had no issue with the transition to townhouses from the single family, recognizing the modernization, the affordability piece, and just how things have shifted. I heard a lot about sort of stagnation and lack of development. And I think that's why we've really focused on sort of where those areas make sense for density, areas that have transit, areas that have active transportation. And during my last year and a half, we've voted on multiple applications that deal with density. So, you know, I do want to say I'm very much in support of development, just making sure that it's accessible development and it makes sense where it's at. I also heard from the community members around the challenges around Silver Valley. I heard very much about sort of the input into the Horse Hamlet. And when we look at Silver Valley, the Horse Hamlet being the most outer piece, the one that is more sort of larger homes, less density, right at the gates to Golden Ears Park. We heard about the schools, the emergency access, lack of a second exit, the lack of transit in this location, and the lack of even access to active transportation. And, you know, those were things that it really weighed on me in this decision. to have families move into an area where there's no schools. And again, I also recognize we don't control that, although we've done our best to lobby for an additional school site in our abilities. The bridge is sort of there, but again, there's a huge funding shortfall. We have no idea when that's going to happen. And emergency exit, what we do in emergency weighs very, very heavily on my mind. And I think that's, when I think back to December, again, it wasn't the transition from housing to that was the challenge for me. It would go back to the developer back in December. And it's really unfortunate the developer didn't come back with something, similar to the development just down the street, which a much lower FSR, larger units, less units per hectare, which really fits that area and what was envisioned for that area. So for me, just for the developer to bring it back and shrink the units to have a less FSR still doesn't meet my request to have lower density in that area. So I will not be supporting this based on the comments that I heard and the thoughts around sort of the access and the area that this happens. Again, density in some of those more urban areas where there actually is access to transit, access to active transportation. Obviously this is a priority for me and many of us on council, if you look at our plans. But this one is just in the wrong area for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll echo some of the comments that definitely the participation, both sides of this makes it a challenge for council when you're considering this.
Sorry, your mic is on, right?
Yeah, sorry. Is that better? Okay. So for me, I mean, yes, the concerns related to the traffic, the parking, the density, the school capacity. When I look at those particular issues, those issues kind of exist all over the place. And one of the challenges is definitely that particular roadway. The need for more density, more attainable homes was something we heard, and in particular from some of the younger people that were attending. And one young lady spoke and really resonated with me when she said that we need more affordable housing options, that it's about ensuring the future viability and vitality of our community. It's about giving our youth the opportunity and the hope so that my children and my grandchildren don't have to move away from Maple Ridge. And it provides them with an opportunity to get into a home that they can afford. Now, I realize affordability. Affordable is a real buzzword. Affordable really is about everyone's affordability is different depending on their income. But this is another choice. And we heard that, people would like to live in that area, but they can't live in a single family home. We heard about the jobs, the potential jobs, which is across the area. So it's not just related to Silver Valley. But the one thing we did hear is that as the trades work with development in the community, it saves them 2 to 3 hours of commute time. There was concerns about the lack of schools. We hear that, overcrowding. And when you look at the school district facilities plan, there is the site proposed for this area. It's albeit not what we originally envisioned when we were looking at the Silver Valley plan, but it is in their facilities plan. It is anticipated to be built there. Of course, density is a piece of that. Most of our schools throughout our community are at capacity. This is a challenge, and it's not just a challenge for Silver Valley. It's not just a challenge for Maple Ridge. We hear about Surrey's challenges. It's a challenge everywhere. So we need to continue to support the school district in their advocacy with the province to realize that, because as a growing community, we're not going to stop growing. So we need to ensure that we continue to be advocates for that. I was sad to hear that comments that townhouses don't belong in Silver Valley, because for me, I listened to some of the people that said they'd love to live in Silver Valley, but their only opportunity is if there was townhouses available. And when we looked at the marketing, the marketing is very clear that people are excited about that opportunity. There is limited transit service at this moment, but in order to improve the transit service, we need the density, and that goes the same across our community, no matter where we are. In order to get more buses, more frequent transit services, you need the density. It's up to council to continue to work on the infrastructure and the bridge. That's our role. And so if we really want to improve our community as a whole and increase the density over our community, that's a big task. It's a big ask, and it's a big dollar. But we know that if we're going to reach out to 150, 160,000 people, that's a must. So I am going to go back to the Silver Valley Plan. There was tons of consultation back in the day. I mean, it was originally considered to be urban in the mid-90s. There was quite an extensive collaborative effort when the plan was adopted. There were several reviews of the plan. Most part, its pattern of implementation was found to be sound, but that was mainly because single-family homes were attainable and people could afford them. In 2012, that was the first indication that the plan had some weakness, and that was because the school districts changed to having the 4 schools down to 1. In the guiding principles of the Silver Valley Plan, there is 3.14 adaptability, and what it says under there is plan for incremental growth and changing market trends. This is a changing market trend. It's huge. Allow for the plan to adopt and meet economic opportunities over time. So I share that because it was envisioned that the Silver Valley Plan there was going to have to be some flexibility, and it was going to be fluid, because how do you know 25 years out? And this is a classic example. If you asked anybody in this room, did we envision in 2024 that our children would have to leave this community to be able to afford to get into homes? We would have said no, because we were able to buy homes in this community. So I am going to continue to support this application. I believe that the applicant, albeit we can, there's a difference of opinion on what that density looks like, but the FSR does align with the RM1 zone. The application does have a lot more open amenity area. The applicant is contributing funds towards the park that is not necessary, but continues to want to do that. Obviously the volunteer cash contribution to do with the community amenities, and the unit type and mix, and in particular the garages, because that addressed a lot of the concerns that we had. How much space in the garages for the vehicles, how much for EV parking, recycling garbage, and all those things. So I believe the applicant did address all of those. So the question comes down to, can we live with 47 townhouses, in my opinion? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to Councillor Dewick for covering off a lot of the points that I had as well, so I'm not going to repeat. I have to say I was pleasantly surprised at the volume of participation from the community, and it's a beautiful thing that we live in a democracy where we all have a voice, and it was quite clear as to how many voices were in favor of it versus how many voices were not. And the majority on this side, in this case, landed on the in favor. Not only that, but we also had former Councillor Craig Spears weighing in, former Mayor Al Hogarth, former Mayor Ernie Dakin. These are experienced people who have been in our seats and have had participation in these plans and have always had the interest of the community at large in their hearts. And for them to come forward and put their names behind a project like this speaks volumes to me. I'm looking at this project as something that's for the future generations of Maple Ridge. I've heard both sides, people that were looking to live in Maple Ridge, raise their families in Maple Ridge, and continue to be part of the community that is so wonderful, that continues to attract people to come here and say Maple Ridge is home. By having such a project, I think it would be better for us to then be able to move forward, as Councillor Dewick said, with more transit service, secondary road access, and the funding to do so, not only for our infrastructure, but also with more residents, we have more amenities, and that funding formula for schools will make more sense for the school district to then be able to put the school in. The local trades and jobs that was mentioned by the people that spoke obviously makes great sense. This is something that I've spoken about since 2017, saying why are 2/3 of our residents leaving every day, spending 3 hours both ways to go to work when we can have the opportunity to provide them with work here in Maple Ridge? That is a big point for me. And it's not just the building and construction, it's the follow-on services and the continuation that will come as part of it. There were a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, there were a few comments that truly did not sit well with me. As Councillor Dewick mentioned, that townhouses don't belong in Silver Valley. Well, this is not the only or first project to have townhouses in Silver Valley. Someone mentioned something about we should be building ranchers. This is 2024. We're not going to build ranchers. We need the density. We need people to come here. People are coming here, and we need to make space for them, to accommodate them and provide that housing. It's our role in our seats to do so and to approve projects like this. Someone also said that townhouses belong in city centers. That again, it was so out of touch. I couldn't believe that I was hearing this in 2024. I believe those that were opposed to it, for the most part, were simply trying to maintain a particular lifestyle that they've grown accustomed to. And I see this as the future and the change that is needed in order for Maple Ridge to become the city that it has the potential to become. We can't be beholden to the past and continue to try to do things status quo, and at the same time say that we're for attainable housing and we're for growth and we're for progress. This is progress. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Doze.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to dwell on what my colleagues have said already, but it suffices to say that it was a very rewarding experience for me listening to all the people that spoke, the arguments for and against. And I must be honest to say that both sides have very genuine and honest argument, apart from very few of them who made some comments I would find very, very concerning, especially when you start saying that, or rather trying to defend your lifestyle, just like my colleague has just mentioned. I took note of that. It was really the wrong thing to say, especially in a situation where we are having their need of housing. But having said that, I watched with rapt attention, and I was looking for something that nobody was able to tell me from both sides. That is the economics of what we are talking about. We are talking about building 47 units somewhere outside of where are the rims of our development. That means that we're going to build road to that location. We're going to put in a sewage line. We're going to build bridge and all what have you. And from my rough information I have on the bridge, it's going to cost about over $50 million to do that. Nobody has told me where that money is going to come from. Only a few days ago, we looked at the budget for Maple Ridge, and one of the things that came out of that conversation was a hike in property taxes. Maple Ridge has no many industries like other communities where you can get some money apart from what you get from property taxes. the only thing that gives us money in this city are properties. And now I've got at least more than 5 to 10 people complain to me about our tax rate, which actually is one of the lowest. If you look at what was happening around us, people were already complaining. What am I saying? When we build or approve this particular location, it is the same people who are complaining today that are going to bear the brunt of it. We are going to increase property taxes to find the money that we will use to provide the infrastructural facilities that are required to support that settlement. For the avoidance of doubt, I have lived in this city very close to getting to 20 years. And I noticed that one of the reasons why we were where we are today is because of developments that were planned without proper planning or thought to it. If I may borrow some words from our CAO, he said that the swimming pool that he grew up in, swimming in this place for about 20-something or so years, is now being managed with maintained with duct tapes. That we were holding our swimming pools together with duct tapes. That was what he said, and it was actually true. In other words, if you're going to swim, you have to get out of town to do that. Nobody's thinking about that. Nobody's thinking about how much it's going to cost us to get all these facilities in place. The economics of what we're talking about. So having looked at this project, for me, it is a fantastic, good project whose time is yet to come. We don't have what it takes to build that particular area the way we are looking at it. So for that singular reason, unless somebody presents me with a viable process of raising money to be able to do that without going to the complaining majority of the people of Maple Ridge, I will say that I will not support this because the people of Maple Ridge are not ready to fund or spend more money, put more money into, put their hands into their pocket to bring up more money for us by way of property taxes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tan?
How's this? Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. This is a hard decision. I spent too many hours thinking about this one. It gives me a visceral reaction to think about the possibility of voting no to housing during this time of a housing crisis. It actually makes me kind of want to puke, to be honest. It is really difficult because as I listen to the public hearing, you know, as Councillor Dewitt brought up, there are many folks who spoke about the dire need for housing, including many young folks who say, well, I will have to move if I can't find housing. And, you know, I'm living that. And so that's very, very intensely difficult. And the other thing I'm trying to balance here is the vision for our community. You know, we've talked a lot around this table about a walkable community, about building communities that are not a car dependent, about building developments close to transit. This is a difficult thing because I think, you know, the folks who spoke so passionately about at public hearing, I think we were actually getting closer and closer to the same page, despite what it sounded. I think many of us want the same thing, which we recognize that we need housing that's actually attainable for folks. And we want it in areas that are close to transit. We want areas that are walkable in beautiful places that are beautiful neighborhoods. And I think so really we do want a similar vision here. So my task was, what do we do? What's the decision tonight that will help us and enable us to reach that vision? One thing I'll say specific to this project is that emergency access is challenging. You know, I think about what happens if there were to be a wildfire in all those forests out there, and what happens if in the case of severe flooding, and what it would look like to evacuate, to provide residents with the supplies they need. And it is challenging, and it is not something that we've really had the ability to plan for because the climate has changed so much. And so you know, the other thing that I want to balance is as I listened to the many folks who really came and pleaded with us for housing in a public hearing, and it's really not a situation I want to put folks in, you know, where folks have to come and almost beg council for housing so that they can stay in a community. It is an absolutely heartbreaking thing to hear for 3 hours to have so many people come to us begging us to make the case for housing. And I want to say to folks that we get you. No, we really hear you. I reflected on the fact that we had a housing needs report session presentation today, and we heard that there is incredible core housing need in this community, particularly for renters, particularly for youth, seniors, folks, and so many of us are struggling. And so so as I'm trying to kind of bring it all together, you know, and I think about what it means to be fiscally responsible, as Councillor Dozier said. And so I think the end of the vision, what we want here is a community that built a lot more housing for folks. And that I think that's something we're all on the same page with. Single family homes are no longer attainable for the vast majority of us. It will be townhomes, it will be condos, it will be apartments, it will be purpose-built rental. It's not single family homes. We've moved past that. The question is where. And, you know, I really hesitate to be in this place where I would say one neighborhood is for a specific type of person who can afford something and one neighborhood is not. That's not where I want to go. But what I think the vision that we're trying to say here that is we want walkable, complete communities. And the reality is that if we spend our money servicing neighborhoods that are further from the town center, it's going to be incredibly challenging. TransLink is in a challenging financial position now. We have trouble getting them to increase service levels in our town center, not to mention out in neighborhoods that have very little transit. So I think, what does that mean? I am leaning towards a no vote on this. But I think moving forward, what do we say to all those folks who came to us and said, we desperately need housing and we needed it 5 years ago? I'd say, you know what? The onus is on us as a city. The onus is on us to look at things like innovative things like the mayor talked about earlier today about the concierge program, where we say, we hear you, and the data also says the core housing need is with folks with the renter population and with affordable housing, with non-market housing and close to the town center. That is what we need to prioritize. And it is on us as a city to put in policies that enable that kind of development to get sped up, to get put at the front of the queue, and to say formally, this is what, if you are putting developments like that forward, you are going to get bumped up the top of queue, and we're going to make sure that it happens, that we can move that along as quickly as for us. So I am leaning towards a no vote, Mayor, and I will say, and I'll also say to folks that this one will keep me up at night. And, you know, the onus is really on the city for us to move faster. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody's had a chance to speak. I will jump in with my thoughts. Sorry, is it on? It's on. Yeah. Okay, we're good. I'll get closer to the microphone. You know, this is not easy decisions to make. You know, we all got elected to do a job, and in order to do that, you have to sometimes weigh everything that's coming in front of us. When I look at Silver Valley, this is not a NIMBY thing. This is absolutely a safety and security thing. I don't sleep at night thinking of trying to evacuate that whole area. Can't. So there's been talk, yes, we're talking about putting a bridge in. But guess what, folks? They've been talking about putting a bridge in for years and years. And maybe that influenced the development that was going into Silver Valley, thinking, well, don't worry, we'll get there. We'll put a bridge in. Don't worry. I have to worry about that, because what's the next one and the next one? Maybe we won't be able to get that bridge. Maybe we won't be able to find $55 million to build a bridge anytime soon. That's something that we as a council have to work on. I'm not prepared to put in that kind of density with the challenges that are already there. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, because council has struggled with this one. We've referred it back to staff, hoping that there would be less densification. Unfortunately, it came back with one less, and that's just not good enough for me. I have to draw the line and say, no, I cannot allow that kind of density in such a tight spot because there's lots of other ones that are right behind them. So for a whole bunch of reasons that people have been talking about, I can't support this project, and that's where I'm going to leave it right now. Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess just following up on a few of the comments, whether we approve this project or not, we still are going to have the responsibility of dealing with the traffic, the sewer, the infrastructure, the bridge, because that was the commitment all along. So, and to me personally, how the difference between 27 single family homes, and I know somebody has critiqued me because I said that they could potentially have basement suites, which is true, they could. So you could have 27 single family homes with basement suites. So what is the difference between that and 47 townhouses? And it keeps coming back to parking, and people don't use their garages for parking. Well, again, that's all throughout the municipality. In my neighborhood, lots of people don't park in their garages, and they're single family homes. So there's, it's something, I don't know what we can do to make people park in their garages other than, have no parking on the street so that they're forced to park in their driveways or in their garages. Maybe that's something we have to look at. But the servicing and all of that, and I appreciate where you're coming from, Mr. Mayor, on the safety piece, but we have how many people living in Silver Valley right now that are expecting these infrastructure improvements for that very reason? And how far are we? And the question to staff is, where are we with the number of units in Silver Valley? It was originally envisioned, I want to say 4,400. So I have a question for staff as far as where are we in the Silver Valley area plan?
Is staff able to answer that question?
Through the chair. So we've taken a look at the numbers through the Silver Valley area plan, but I have them broken down by hamlet. So it's going to be a bit of a different answer. So for the Horse Hamlet, it was anticipating 240 units within that hamlet, approximately 500 within Forest, and then 460 within Blaney. Specifically in terms of what density is looking like within the Horse Hamlet at build out prior to Bill 44, we would be coming up to about 250 units. So there's a portion of the hamlet that's not currently under development application. So as a rough approximation, I'd say 50 to 60% are likely built or under development application, but there is a portion that is not yet in stream.
Okay, thank you. That helps. I guess the other question, we heard about traffic, and I know that we didn't actually have there wasn't a traffic study done, but we did hear some anecdotes about that, and I'm wondering if staff are able to comment on what realistically a project this size would see in increased traffic.
Mr. Halpin?
Yes, through the chair. Based on our calculations of Institute of Transportation Engineers, we believe we're in the AM about one vehicle every 3 minutes in the peak hour. In the PM, about one vehicle every 2 hours in the peak hour. Two vehicles every hour in the peak hour.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess just lost my train of thought for a second, thinking traffic. No, I lost it. It'll come back to me.
Okay, we have 3 rounds, so we're on
Okay.
round 2.
All right, thanks.
Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 quick points on the comment that Councillor Dewick just raised about the 27 single-family units that would have basement suites. Not only are we looking at a more people, more vehicles living there, I'm looking at the cost of acquiring these single-family units. They're going to be significantly higher to buy than these townhouses would be. So when we're talking about making housing more affordable, are we doing that in this case? I'll leave that question to be rhetorical for my colleagues. The second point is the parking. Looking at the site plan and the issues that have been raised around parking, I don't see that the neighborhood would be affected by the parking at all. The site plan and the project, the way it is, parking will only be within the complex, if you will, or the compound within the project. There's not going to be spill out into any other part of the neighborhood because one, there is no parking on Fern Crescent. Two, anywhere else is way too far to walk. So visitor or resident will be parking within the confines of this project. Not to mention that, again, looking at the site plan, we've seen how extensive the environmental maintenance and improvements that have been to guarantee and provide for gardens and yards within the project. I go back to my comment earlier that this is a very good, future-oriented project. And I see little to no downfall to it, or downside to it, I should say. It works. Silver Valley can accommodate this, and Silver Valley will accommodate this density, whether it be here or elsewhere. We have many more applications coming down the pipeline, be it single family or otherwise. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. Again, just going back to some of the things that we heard, and I do want to just echo what Councillor Tan said, is this really has been a very difficult decision for me, and I have spent a lot of time thinking about this and looking into it. And you know, I did I hear correctly from staff that it was anticipated to have 240 housing units in the Horse Hamlet, and we're anticipating 250? Was that what I heard? Although some are not presently under rezoning, there's the possibility of them.
Through the chair, that's correct. It's based on the number of units we have in stream. It looks like we're sitting at just north of 120 some odd units in existence. So there's about 100 units left to come online.
Okay, and the already being over what was anticipated, that doesn't take into accommodation if we approve this one that's over the density, that obviously we'll have more coming to us that increase the density, which we could likely be well over that 240 anticipated.
Through the chair,
I don't know if staff can, that may be just a question out there and staff may not be able to answer that one.
I think there's just 2 points. The numbers are very close at this point in time. The difference in units is nominal between the numbers anticipated and our current build out and trend. I would just make a note that the current number of units built out and in stream does not take into effect any of the changes initiated in 2024.
Okay, thank you. Just on the OCP piece, and you know, there's been some comments around modernization, and I mean, anybody who's been here knows the last year and a half I've been saying, yeah, we need to review the OCP, we need to review area plans. It's not good enough to let it sit on the shelf for 20 years. But this is what we have today, and if we're going to start increasing density well over what was thought of, then I think we need to look at it as a strategic approach. And I talked about this, I don't know if it was the last round or in December, is that if we're going to increase density and we're going to allow more than what is already anticipated, then we need to have that conversation around, you know, does our infrastructure even support having more housing than what was anticipated in this area? And at this time, I'm not entirely sure that that's it. I just want to make a comment about the garages, and you know, both Councillor Dewick and Councillor Youssef talked about the garages. And, you know, I was a proponent for having larger garages. And the reason I'm a proponent for larger garages to make sure that people can actually park in their garage is because that's our role as a city, is to make sure that there are places for people to park. If people choose not to park in their garages, I don't think there's much we can do about it. Our role is to make sure there's space for them to park. And it's unfortunate. It's just the way that a lot of people don't use their garages. But at the end of the day, we have to assume that people are going to use their garages. There's just one thing I wanted to sort of comment on, because it was mentioned a couple of times at public hearing, and it's kind of, I think it's just good to clarify it with the community. It was mentioned that higher density would get us closer to building a school around the school site acquisition charges. And I just want to share that the school site acquisition charges haven't increased in the 23 years since it was introduced in 2001. The BC School Trustees Association has a whole paper on how they are not up to what we need with the increase in with property values. But the one thing I did want to just mention is that there's the maximum amount, which is what we charge in Maple Ridge, is based on the density piece. And actually, the more dense piece actually means the developer pays less per unit because it's just over that next stage. So to be honest, whether we do, 35, which we had maybe suggested back in December, and 47, there's honestly not much of a difference. And I just wanted to get that out there so people knew that there was these things with school site acquisitions. Again, for me, it's the infrastructure piece. I am really concerned about it. And when we hear about the attainable and the affordable, these are 1,300, 1,400 townhomes, and looking at market value, they're probably going to go for $950,000. For me, when I talk about affordable and attainable, I want to put my energy into those below market rentals, and for people who actually need the affordable housing. And that's sort of where my focus will be. So I continue to not support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for round two? Seeing none, I'll go to round three. Did you remember, Councillor Duick?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to talk about the fact that the visitor parking, there is extra visitor parking as well with the proposed changes, which would help with that traffic piece. But I do keep coming back to, in order for us to complete the Silver Valley plan, we have to have the density. So I'm hearing what my colleagues are saying. I go back to former Councillor Spears when he was speaking, and the fact that he was able to support this said a lot to me, because he has always been a strong advocate to do with the environment, like very strong, and save trees and the environment. So when he said he supports it because of the fact that it was Silver Valley plan was done in an environmentally sound way, and the fact that the access will help with the commercial component of the Silver Valley plan, I think it's important to hear what he said, because he's been there from the beginning. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments on for the third and final round? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? I see two. All those opposed? And sorry, the red card. Okay, thank you. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-2. Motion has been defeated. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next item, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Items under committee reports and recommendations are staff reports presented at an earlier committee of the whole meeting, typically 1 week prior, to provide council with an opportunity to ask staff detailed questions. The items are now before the regular council meeting for debate and vote. The first item is item 10.1, application 2023-056-AL for property located at 26060 124 Avenue. And it's an application to subdivide land within the ALR.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please.
Item 10.2 is application 2023-373-RZ for units 102, 104, 106, and 116, 22633 Selkirk Avenue to allow an accessory pharmacy use in a proposed new medical clinic pharmacy in Phase 4 of the Brickwater Building. And this is before council to give first, second, and forward to a public hearing.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Counselor Doze, seconded by Counselor Youssef. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 10.3 is application 2021-556-RZ, property located at 22020 Avenue to rezone from RS1 to RT2 to provide for the future construction of a triplex. And this is before council for second reading of, we'll do separate, the zone amending bylaw is before council for consideration of second reading and to forward this item to a public hearing subject to the following terms and conditions on the screen being met prior to final reading.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Counselor Duick, seconded by Counselor Doze. Comments or questions, please? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please.
Next item is 10.4, application 2017-031 for development variance permit and development permit for property located at 21333 River Road to permit the construction of 4 residential units designed in the form of a courthouse housing. And this is just to authorize the DVP. 17 notices were mailed out and no correspondence was received on this item.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Counselor Doze, seconded by Counselor Schiller. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is 10.5, application PL 23-106 to award the contract for the Maple Ridge Park new playground construction to Canadian Landscape and Civil Services in the amounts provided for in the recommendation on the screen.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Counselor Doze, seconded by Counselor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, Madam Clerk.
The next item is 11.1, which is application 2019-055-RZ for property located at 11795 and 11839 267th Street to rezone from RS3 to RS2 to permit a future subdivision of approximately 15 single-family lots. The recommendation is in front of council for consideration.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Counselor Duick, seconded by Counselor Schiller. Comments, questions? Counselor Schiller, followed by Counselor Carreras.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. Through you to staff, can I just get some clarification? Has this council had a presentation on this item before?
Yes.
Thank you. I
Yes.
must have missed it in the shuffle of items. I guess I just, when I looked at it, it sort of seemed a little bit unusual in that we'd gone through public hearing and now it was being rescinded. And I guess I'm just not clear on why that is. So could I ask for a little bit of clarification, please?
The application has previously been approved by council and there was an administrative housekeeping error where this is correcting the maps that accompany the bylaw.
Okay, and that's the only change from the previous?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm good for now.
Thank you. Counselor Carreras, followed by Counselor Tan.
Thank you. Sorry, this is in line with Councillor Schiller. Sorry, I don't remember getting a presentation on this either. This was predominantly the previous council, so I'm sorry if I've missed it as well. But I just want to confirm that this was approved at final reading by the previous council, and this is just going back because there's a technical change.
That is correct.
Okay, so this is just, so I just,
The clerk is going to respond to that.
okay.
Yes, through the chair. This item was given third reading by the previous council. And in moving forward to finalize the rezoning, it was discovered that an error had been made on the map attached to the public hearing notice at that time. So last week, council rescinded third reading of the bylaw, and then it's in front of council tonight. Sorry, rescinded second and third. And it's before council tonight to recall it to a public hearing.
And sorry, we rescinded it last week?
Yes, we did.
The last. regular-
Okay.
The last.
Oh, the last regular meeting was 2 weeks ago. Okay. No, I was like, there wasn't a public meeting public council last week. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I again, so we haven't really had a true report on this. So I am inclined to support this only because previous council had made the decision and basically gone forward with it. And I do think we're only revisiting this because of a technical error in the maps. And I think that goes with if we're going to oppose something, it's, second reading or after public hearing at third, but once it's sort of gone to final reading, and this is just being revisited because of technical, I will support this. I'm not a huge fan of developments out in the outer areas, even if they're 1 acre lots. So when we talk about focusing our resources, I would prefer to focus my resources in town, but because this was already dealt with by a previous council, I will continue to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. I too was a little bit confused because I didn't remember this one coming back to us. And so very similar along the lines of what Councillor Carreras is saying. I am a little bit concerned about the fact that this is, I believe, outside the urban containment boundary. And I understand that this is now coming back to us. I wonder whether there's an opportunity for us to come back, for this to come back to us as a committee of the whole, so that we are able to sort of understand this a little bit more, because before we make a decision, or is the staff recommendation that we make the decision now? Because I'm not sure if we've had the chance to make sure we fully understand this.
Can certainly do that. Council did receive some information about this at a closed meeting a couple of weeks ago, just on the process that would need to go through. We are trying to expedite this for the applicant because of the administrative error. So space has been pre-booked for the ad in the newspaper to get it to the March public hearing. But if council doesn't feel like they have enough information, we can certainly have council present at a future meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I certainly, I hear that there was information presented at a previous meeting, and to me too, but it just got lost in the shuffle of the number of development applications. I appreciate that information. I'll leave it there. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Sorry, I misspoke. The rescinding is in the motion in front of you.
Councillor Dewick.
Thank you. I wouldn't be in favor of sending it back to committee of the whole for all the reasons that the clerk outlined. It is an administration issue that we have to address. It was given okay by the previous council. And you may not recall, because it was fairly early in the term, but last May, we had questions around suburban residential in the OCP. And you may recall that I had mentioned that there were several reports, and Mr. McMullen, I forwarded all those reports to Chuck and Mark, and they subsequently sent it around to council, so you would have an understanding of the suburban residential designation in the OCP. So I'm happy to reshare that if it's not, because it was early, it was May of 2023, so.
Thank you. Any further comments? So I'll just throw in my 2 cents on this. Had there been no error, the project would have moved forward because it was approved. The error was made and it's been sitting there, and now we're trying to correct that error. So, you know, when we look at what previous council has done, it's incumbent upon us to honor the intention of what was sent forward. Unlike others, this is actually, there's others that, well, staff might have said this or staff might have said that, but no documentation. That's not the case here. It's gone through the whole thing, gone through the whole scenario. So, for that reason, I think it would be unreasonable to backtrack. And just correct me. So what we're voting on is to rescind, and then they would go to public hearing again.
Rescinding the previous readings and giving those readings as amended and forwarding to a public hearing.
Right. So at that point, public hearing, I'm not sure what had happened before public hearing, but I'm sure we'll hear what comes back to us from public hearing. So that's where we're at right now. We have to be able to move forward one way or another. We have to show that, look, I mean, this is the regs. A mistake was made. We need to correct that. And that's what we're doing here. So by passing it, you're allowing public hearing to come forward. So for that reason, I tend to believe I'd want to support this one. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving over to the next item, please.
Next, item 11.2 is delegation of procurement authority bylaw number 7987-2024. And this is the new bylaw that will align council's priority to deliver vital municipal services with innovation, accountability, and efficiency to meet the needs of the community now and into the future. I will just clarify in the report, the bylaw is included as well as the policy that council considered had presented to them a few weeks ago. The policy is there for information only in its entirety as council requested. Tonight's consideration is only for first, second, and third reading of the bylaw. Should it proceed, it will come back to the next regular meeting for adoption in consideration with the policy.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments or questions on this item? Not seeing any, so I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item is 11.3, the grant application for the 2024 Local Government Development Approvals Program to support implementation of established best practices and test innovative approaches to improve development approval processes.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Moving along, Madam Clerk.
Next item is 11.4, the Lower Mainland Local Government Association 2024 policy resolutions. And this for council to review each of the 4 proposed council LMLGA working group endorsed policy resolutions and to vote on each separately for submission to the LMLGA convention.
Thank you very much. And we do have Ms. Anastasias here if there's any questions. But first can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Schiller. I wonder, since Councillor Schiller, you were the chair of the subcommittee, if you wanted to make a few comments.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. And yes, myself, Merumi and Councillor Carreras participated in the subcommittee with the support of Ms. Anastasiadis. And our goal here was just to reflect on the conversations we've had over the past year and craft some resolutions that we felt reflected our priorities and strategic objectives here in this community, but would also be relevant to other Lower Mainland communities. So we'll just look at them one at a time. And if, those that are supported by council will move forward for LMLGA consideration. And I look forward to your feedback and questions.
Thank you. Are we going through each one individually on the screen or
No.
just voting of the block?
Yeah, they're what were included in the council report. So the attachment A would be the first one, which was better support for public transit. I can read it out if that's council's
So we're
desire.
voting on each one individually?
Yes.
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 Yeah, okay, yeah. So, okay, so the first one was the transit. That is correct?
Better support for public transit.
Better support for public transit. Okay, so I need a motion for each one then. Yeah, okay. Can I get a motion for that item, for the better transit? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Doze. Any comments or questions on the better transit resolution? You all have it in your files. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The second motion?
Is
Second,
the resolution on community infrastructure.
okay. Can I get a motion for the community infrastructure resolution? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. And the third resolution?
That is the resolution that is for consultation and review of recent BC 2023 fall housing legislation.
Okay, can I get a motion for this item? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. And the fourth and final one, Madam Clerk.
That is the resolution for incentivizing non-market housing.
Okay. Motion moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Comments, questions? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh, excellent news. Where motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you. Nope. Councillor Youssef, sorry, did you oppose that one?
Yes, sir. You didn't call for any opposed.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand up in support.
No.
Okay, any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so motion is carried 6-1. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
The next item is the Growing Community Reserve Fund bylaw to establish a reserve fund to maintain the Growing Community Grant. And this is before council for first, second, and third reading.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, Madam Clerk.
The next item is 11.6, which is a latecomer agreement 181-23. And this provides the city's assessment of cost allocations to these benefiting lands.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Chan. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Next item, Madam Clerk.
11.7 is another latecomer agreement, LC 183-24. The same item.
We're good. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay. Madam Clerk, what do we have next on the
Thank
agenda?
you, Your Worship. The next item is item 13, public question period. Participants in public question period are reminded that there should be no discussion of public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for public question period is 15 minutes. If you wish to inquire about additional opportunities to address council, please contact the corporate officer. For members of the public in attendance, in council chambers wanting to participate, please come forward to the microphone. Please state your name and city of residence for the record before beginning and address your comments to the mayor. Additionally, if there are members on the participating electronically, please register as a speaker by raising your hand, turn on your camera, and clearly state your name and city of residence for the record before you begin your address and comments and questions to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see we already have somebody at the podium.
We do.
Name and where do you live? please?
Janet Dimitrieff, 9490 263rd Street. And right before my question, I would just like to make a statement. And I would like to thank our new council for making this a welcoming environment.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
That's
good.
it.
Go. Okay, good. I thought you were going somewhere else.
Congratulations.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't talk about the previous things that have been passed on.
I
this
will
one.
get on with my question.
But I like that it's a welcoming environment. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, it's been brought up tonight again about our OCP. And I was just wondering if council would entertain the thought of a citizens advisory committee on this. I have a great number of people who are very knowledgeable about this, and they've asked me to come forward and ask if it's a possibility. They would like to send their names in for your perusal and see if you think it would be a fit body to, and it would just be investigations and basically things that might help. For you, most of you will not remember Marino Rossi. He was the best planner Maple Ridge ever had. And he was here at least 15 or 20 years. And I will contact him and see if we can actually send documents or our ideas to him, to what he thinks. He left this municipality because he said they could not move forward and make a proper OCP. So it's just, I would like to put something in writing to all of you about our thoughts about how we may be able to help you. And I didn't know if this is appropriate or inappropriate.
Okay, you're certainly entitled to send us a letter on that. I will say with the new legislation, there's still some questions about OCP. You know, the province is suggesting that it get reviewed every 5 years.
Yeah, it's a little late.
You know, so we have not, as a council, had that discussion.
I realize I'm a little premature, but I just wanted to get the feeling of what council thought about it. Because Moreno Rossi, if I can get his opinions, you will not have a better person in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would just, again, send us a letter, email, and thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else in chambers that would like to speak up? Or is there anybody online? Nobody's online. Seeing no one else coming to the podium, well, then I will officially close question period. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Next up
What's
is
next?
mayor and council verbal reports.
Okay. I'll take a speakers list. No, Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. Just report that last week, the Fraser Valley Regional Library Board had their annual two-day retreat. So as a liaison, I was able to participate in the first day, and this is an opportunity for the board to review the strategic plan for the library, the regional library system, and just learn more about how this organization is run. And I would just want to thank Councillor Youssef for stepping in for the second day and representing the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I see fireworks on Councillor Youssef's, and now he's dancing. Did you want to add something, Councillor Youssef?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know how the fireworks came about. My hands were over here. It's amazing what Zoom can do nowadays. No, not really. Not much to add. It was a very informative day for me to learn, having been the alternative, not just this term, but even with last term. It was the very first board meeting for me to attend. A lot of learnings about how that organization functions, such a well-oiled machine. My hat is off to their staff and their considerations for keeping those doors open and welcoming all members of our community. Of course, there were concerns raised about the safety of not only the employees, but also other visitors and conduct that shouldn't be happening in our libraries. Luckily, they do have the ability to ban individuals if it comes down to that, to speak to them, and to ensure that not only visitors to the library are safe and feel safe to gain the knowledge and ideas that are there for them to be able to explore, but also for their staff as well. So I tip my hat to all of FVRL staff in Maple Ridge and elsewhere for the tremendous work that they do in continuing to offer that environment that's so welcoming and open and full of knowledge. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further councillors wish to speak? Seeing none, I'll just throw in my sense. Look, it's been a busy week. We've had a lot of reports coming to us. I'm looking forward to the next short while as we continue to debate some of the issues that have come forward to us. It's exciting that we had a delegation that went to the Prince George Winter Games, Prince George, right? Quesnel Winter Games. So that's exciting. They're on their way back, and look forward to going through some of the results on those ones. And I think that's all that I have to add at the moment. So thank you very much. Seeing no other comments or reports, and we have no further business, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much for your patience, your understanding, and for helping to create a welcoming environment